Well, it's Saturday, and you all know what that means. If you probably know, across the Pacific in Japan, Stardom just had their much recent show, Stardom to the World, featuring many matches. But it does include, of course, a grudge match between, of course, Natsuko Tora, Mayumi Ozaki from Oz Academy, which is going to be interesting. And then, of course, we have three title matches. The IWGP Women's Championship, Suri makes her second defense against Zuzu Suzuki. And of course, the Wonder of Stardom Championship, aka known as the White Belt, Starlight Kid defends her belt against Tomoka Inaba, which is going to be a huge challenge for her. And of course, we have the World of Stardom Championship, also known as the Red Belt. Saya Kamitani makes her next defense against someone from her past, but also the first person who defeated her during the 5-star Grand Prix. We're talking about the top Gaijin, B. Priestley. So that's going to be a very, very banger of a match. And then, of course, we move on with AEW Collision. So as you know, we're getting closer and closer to All Out. We're going to see some interesting matches. Konosuke Takeshita will face Mark Briscoe. As you know, Mark Briscoe wants to get his hands on Kyle Fletcher for the TNT Championship. And now it appears the Don Callis family has now officially has their sights set at, of course, the AEW World title. FTR, as you know, are determined to make a statement towards Christian Cage and Adam Copeland to put them out of their misery. And of course, we have an 8-woman all-star tag team match, which is going to be a lot of fun. And of course, as always, we cap up our episode, as usual, with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, when matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere in the world pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Nike Sayaka watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough with the jibber jabbers. Let's call this meeting into order. So, let's begin with Stardom to the World. Okay, Stardom to the World. This is their much recent big show pay-per-view at today, of course, at the Yokohama Budokan. Now, we opened up, of course, with Emma Maishima versus Rina. Now, of course, factors of this match, many of you would know that Maeshima is the least experienced in the entire match, of course, because Rina, as you know, she's young. She has been the most popular wrestler, not to mention broke the record for, of course, the most consecutive wins as the future champion. But I guess the obvious question we ask ourselves, does she pick up the win on this since she has the experience and, of course, people are behind her? Well, yeah. She was able to pick up the win when she applied the Pink Devil, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, our next match, we have a tag team action. We have Kikyo Furuzawa teaming up with Cosmic Angels Aya Sakura, taking on EXV's Hanako and Waka Tsukiyama. Now, I want to point out something some people commented. I don't know if you guys noticed. Some people think it's kind of weird now. I haven't reviewed it yet, but I will get to it. Aya Sakura doesn't have the Sendai Girls Junior World Championship. I mean, it is kind of weird, but there are those that believe they hope, because we know that she and Sayaka Kurara will be, of course, teaming together to face both Hanako and Waka for the New Blood Tag Team belts, which I think many people are hoping that's what we need to see. So we'll wait until then. But however, of course, when it comes to, of course, factors, you would think that Furuzawa, being the least experienced in this match, would have been the one to take off the fall. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. If you guys know, there's been a long-gated history between both Hanako and Aya Sakura. If you guys remember clearly, they were part of a batch that debuted back in March of 2023. And of course, their issue that they never liked Waka, but at the same time, Aya Sakura, as you know, was sidelined for almost months until she made her return last year, I believe in February or so, before she became a full-time member of the Cosmic Angels. So that kind of sets it up. So there's been history between these two that will never die out. But as always, it showed that Hanako has been showing her dominance, that she will always be the upper hand against Aya Sakura, and she did that by applying the JP Coaster, which is a move that she inherited from Himeka. So we'll see what happens in the title match, and I presume that will take place at New Blood. Now, our next match, we have the Cosmic Angels, Sayaka Kurara and Yuna Mizumori, taking on Dark Sueleta and Mei Sita. Now, remember, folks, Yuna Mizumori has issued a challenge for the high-speed belt. You can call this as a preliminary match for that, which, of course, hopefully she gets her championship match that she has longed for. She's been aiming for this belt for quite some time, and she has came up short, but now she's determined to get to that. Not to mention, she faced wrestlers who been well recognized as high speedsters like Starlight Kid and of course Azumi. But unfortunately that didn't do any well for her, because she ended up being on the checkmate by Mei Sita, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it's over. But the real question is, can Yuna Mizumori finally obtain the belt that it's been eluding her? Well, we just have to wait and see until it happens. Our next match, we have the members of Hate, consisting of Azusa Inaba, Konami, and Momo Watanabe, taking on Mi Vida Loca, consisting of Izuki Aoki, Rina Yamashita, and Bozella. Now, of course, when it comes to members of Hate, you know that they will cut corners. And of course, Mi Vida Loca, they can withstand these type of attacks no matter what. But unfortunately, Aoki was the one who ended up being taken the fall by Momo Watanabe, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, our next match, we have the members of God's Eye, Kiyoka Kotatsu, Rana Yagami, Hina, and Saki Kashima, taking on the full force of Stars, Yuria Him, Momo Koko, Asaya Ida, and Hana. Now, if you guys saw this particular entrance with Stars, they came out with these really interesting jackets. I'm thinking they're changing a bit of their look direction that they've been aiming. Not to say it's going to be a good refreshing, since, as you all know, Mayu Iwatani departed from the promotion not too long ago, and of course, Koguma and Azuki departed as well from the team, but not leaving Stardom. But you ask yourselves, would that change anything? Well, we know they're going to try to establish themselves from scratch, but of course, we know that God's Eye have much establishment than them. And it was, of course, Hina who picked up the win when she applied the jackhammer on Momokogo, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, keep in mind, folks, Yuri Him is the next challenger against Hina for the future belt. So, of course, we will pay attention to that, and I believe that match will take place soon in a New Blood event. So, we'll stay tuned for that. Now, our next match, we have a four-way tag team match. We have God's Eye members Lady C and Ami Souri versus FWC Koguma and Azuki versus Cosmic Angel Sayuri Anu and Natsupoi versus Neo Genesis Miyu Amasaki and Azumi. Now, of course, when it comes to this, we have to be more careful with the bear herself, Koguma, since you all know that she's trying to get people to get involved in the bear dance. We got that with Amasaki and, of course, with Natsupoi. But, of course, the one group that are trying to keep their distance from the bear pose is God's Eye, because we all know Shuri would never allow that to happen. But luckily that didn't happen for them. But it was, of course, Ami Souri who picked up the win with a driver onto Amasaki, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, God's Eye picked up a good win. Now, our next match, we have a bit of the grudge match now, as we have Natsuko Tora versus Mayumi Ozaki, who is, of course, the founder of the Yoshi Promotion Oz Academy. Now, I have not reviewed this event yet, but one of the events recently, Hate infiltrated Oz Academy and disrupted their main event for the Openweight Championship that features, of course, Mayumi herself, Sayuri Anu, and, of course, Kokeru. However, because of their invasion, they stole the belt, and now Mayumi will stop at nothing to get her bands. And, of course, Natsuko Tora is telling her, do yourself a favor, you old hag. Just give up and retire. Your days are done. But Mayumi, I have to say, despite of her age, she refuses to stay down. Not to mention, here's the thing, nobody from Ozuki-gun were there. She had to face everybody alone, dealing with hate getting involved. Well, of course they did. And then, of course, when the moment came, there was the green mist by Natsuko Tora, then, of course, the Death Valley driver, and just like that, it's over. But, of course, Natsuko Tora is determined to tell Mayumi, just retire, you old hag. That's how it is. That's not exactly what she said, but it seems like it. That's what she wants. But, of course, like I said, Mayumi Ozaki is a stubborn woman who will not stay down for nobody. But we'll see what happens down the road. Now, our first of 3 championship match, we have the IWGP Women's Championship. Suzuki, who is a resident of Stardom, takes on Suri. As you all know, Suri is now the heel of Stardom, of course, since she defeated Shuri, and people do not like the fact of an outsider like her. But, of course, we know that Zuzu is a tough girl. We know she can take on any hit that throws at her. You would have assumed Zuzu would have picked up the win, but nope. It took at least 2 Oranagis by Suri to put away, of course, Zuzu, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So she maintained her championship, getting her second victory. Our next match is the Wonder of Stardom Championship, aka the White Belt. Starlight Kid defends her championship against God's Eye's very own Tomoka Inaba. Now, of course, Tomoka, she put a world on hurt, to Starlight Kid, knowing too well she can dismantle her at any given way. I mean, she would have used a leg lock to take her leg out, but Starlight Kid refuses to stay down until she applied the Black Tiger leg killer, and just like that, Inaba had no choice but to tap out. But however, of course, we know it's very disappointing for Inaba because she kind of demonstrated in her post-match comments that it was very sad that she lost, but it is what it is. Now for our main event, it's the World of Stardom Championship. Saya Kamitani defends her belt against someone from her past, Babe Priestley. Now remember, this match happened because Saya Kamitani will not let her loss towards her during the 5-star Grand Prix go without unchecked, like try to right the wrong, in case anybody understands that. And of course, these women went all out. Don't forget, these 2 girls know each other too well. They used to be members of Queen's Quest. And of course, that kind of plays out in the history. Now you would assume that hate would get involved. No, this was a matter between these two, and they went head to head. But I don't know if Natsuko Tora will want nothing to do is just to hurt her, because they share history. Don't forget, she used to be B Priestley used to be a member of Oedo Tai before she left to join WWE. But in the end of this match, it was of course B Priestley with that ended up losing when Kamitani applied the Star Crusher, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, they had some words of exchangement between them, and then Azumi showed up. As you know, Azumi does have a win over, and I knew she was going to cash in her opportunity. But Saya Kamitani is trying to prove that she is the top of the mountain of Stardom. So she told her, "I'll put my belt on the line, and you put that on the line," which she was referring to the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. So it looks more like but from Azumi, she feels like, I don't want to put on the line, but she may have no other choice, knowing too well. But a part of me would think that this match between those two will probably end up in a time limit drop, but we will see what happens. But as of right now, I think that's pretty much it what we have from Stardom. Let's move on with our last review, and that is, of course, AEW Collision. Okay, AEW Collision. We opened up with Jon Moxley taking on Daniel Garcia. Now, we don't know what was the extent of Moxley and Garcia. We know that Jon Moxley, not too long ago, whispered something into his ear, and now Daniel Garcia gets an opportunity against them. But these guys went head to head. They did not hold any punches whatsoever. But for whatever reason, there was a moment with, of course, Marina Shafir tried to help him, not hurt him, but I think there are those that believe that maybe, just maybe, there's the possibility that, of course, Daniel Garcia may join the Death Riders. That's something that has been mentioned on comments for a while now, but we will see what happens. But unfortunately, Daniel Garcia had this match won, but Moxley somehow overturned it and rolled up. And then, of course, during the post-match comments at the end of in the post-match, he completely felt disappointed. Like he doesn't know what to do anymore. Like he's been having a bit of a losing streak for quite some time, but we'll see where that leads us from there. Now in the backstage, Big Bill along with Brian Keith talking about Philadelphia, how pissed he's at them, but of course he called out someone who is well recognized in New York City, because that's where they'll be heading next after the residency at the 2300 Arena, and the person that Big Bill called out is Eddie Kingston. Now, we don't know yet about his condition. We know that he has been trying to recover from his injuries, so if there's any news about that, we'll let you guys know. Now, our next match, we have FTR along with that idiot Stokely. They take on Adam Priest and Tom Billington. If you guys know who he is the nephew of, what's his name, of Dynamite Kid. And I thought the match was pretty good. I mean, they throw in some of what exactly they're all about in wrestling. But in the end, it was, of course, Dax Harwood with a body splash onto Adam Priest that picked up the win. And then, of course, during the post-match, that idiot Stokely Hathaway decided to, of course, to say that they will end the careers of both Adam Copeland and Christian Cage at All Out. But the real question is that going to happen? Well, we don't know. Now, we did see a bit of a video promo with Jon Moxley talking about Darby Allin. So, as you know, Darby Allin has been a thorn in Jon Moxley's side for quite some time. He feels that, I don't want to fight you, so screw you. So, because of the costing matches towards the Death Riders, Jon Moxley had no choice but to accept this challenge and All Out. And, of course, it was later revealed it's going to be a coffin match, which is going to be very, very interesting. Now, our next match, we have the Triangle of Madness. Julia Hart, Sky Blue, and Tekla. They team up with Megan Bayne to take on Chris Statlander, Feel the Wrath, Harley Cameron, Mina Shirakawa, and of course, Toni Storm. So however, before the match even started, out of nowhere, of course, Wheeler Yuta showed up, trying to give advice to Chris Statlander. Of course, Chris Statlander has no intentions to listen to what Wheeler Yuta has to say because, basically they just lost touch. But Wheeler Yuta is determined to bring her into the Death Riders. But a part of me would think, of course, that Marina Shafir does not want her. And of course, Wheeler Yuta is trying to put her name onto the hat. But we'll see what happens. But however, the match itself, it was pretty good. I have to say there was some great moments, with back and forth when one person is down, another take over and just jump in. But in the end, it was of course Chris Statlander with the Saturday Night Fever onto Julia Hart, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. And then of course we did see the attack by the Triangle of Madness targeting Toni Storm. However, while that was happening, Jamie Hayter showed up out of nowhere and took out the Triangle of Madness. Now, of course, we know that there was a moment where Jamie Hayter decided to extend her hand, but Toni Storm decided that in All Out, it's going to be a 4-way match for the AEW Women's World Title. She called out Chris Statlander, she called out Jamie Hayter, and of course, Tekla. So that's going to be a very interesting match to hit, and I think many people are probably hyped up for it. Now, we did see a bit of a video vignette or something from Ace Austin, as you know. Some of you may remember from TNA. Now he's officially with AEW. And we don't know when he'll be making his next move. But however, something is very interesting connection. Apparently, of course, the Bang Bang Gang has not been very efficient recently without the Colton gun and, of course, Switchblade not being there. But however, they called about getting the cards we need to get. Some people saying that this is a reference that they may recruit Ace Austin. Now, some of you may question me, J-Rod, why would people say that? And why do you say that yourself? Obviously, for those who do know, when Jay White was the leader of the Bullet Club, he personally recruited Ace Austin too, when him and Chris Bay were in fact part of it. So it's most likely that you can have that connection. If that's the case, then we'll see what happens. Now, Mercedes Moné, as you know, she has her sights set now on Rio. Now, she is willing to acknowledge her as the first ever AEW Women's World Champion, but she's trying to tell her, you will never win the TBS Championship. I mean, Rio has been the first of everything. So, in my opinion, if she does defeat Mercedes Moné, she will be the first ever woman to hold both the AEW Women's World Title and the TBS Championship. No one has ever done that yet, but Rio could be the first, but we'll see what happens. Now, the Don Callis family, as you know, they come out. Don Callis, that little snake in the grass, of course, is happy with the fact that Kyle Fletcher took out Kenny Omega, who's been a thorn in Don Callis' side. And I hope Kenny does come back. But however, it appears that Hangman Page is now on the sights of the Don Callis family. Josh Alexander called him out because, as you know, when Josh Alexander debuted, he lost to Hangman, and of course he wants a bit of a measure of payback. However, Kyle Fletcher decided to say that he is challenging Hangman for the AEW AEW World Champion. He tells him, Hangman, it took you 3 years to win that belt. I'm not going to wait 3 years or 6 years. So he thinks that he could walk out, because here's the thing, guys. It's ironic that in All Out, this was the same pay-per-view where Hangman Page defeated Kenny Omega. But for Kyle Fletcher, he thinks this is the irony where you won the belt and I will beat you for the belt. But the real question is, will it happen? We will just have to wait and see. Now, the conglomeration, as you know, they've been having some setbacks. So, of course, that whole thing. And, of course, Kyle O'Reilly said, hey, listen, Ishii, we need to take some chill pills. I know he needs it more than me. So, we'll see where that goes. And then, of course, Anthony Bowen had an interview, once again, with his usual attitude, until Jerry Lynn decided, that he tried to give him the better opportunities, but he's been wasting all the way with his nonsense. So we'll see what happens from there. Now, our main event is, of course, the Konosuke Takeshita versus Mark Briscoe. I have to say the match went all out. I mean, no punches will hold. But of course, that idiot, Don Callis, decided to distract the referee until MJF showed up, costing the match, giving, of course, Takeshita to apply the Raging Fire. And then MJF shows up to try to beat down, of course, Briscoe, and then of course Takeshita got in his face. And then of course Briscoe's MJF decided that he's like, I'm not done with you. So he wants to put him out of his misery once and for all. But however, Mark Briscoe said that he called him out, that they will have this match in All Out. But the real question is, what is the stipulation? Well, he hasn't said, but we'll see where that leads. So that's going to be a lot of fun to find out. So we'll see. So as of right now, we are officially done with our reviews. So let's move on to our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So we only have one update for upcoming events. As you know, there is this promotion based out of Manila in the Philippines called Dexcon. It was announced that Lacey Evans, formerly known as Casey Carter from WWE, she will be making her appearance at this promotion between the 18th and the 19th of October. So for many of you who don't know this, she is half Filipino, I believe, but yes. So it's great to hear that she's going to a country that is part of her heritage. So we'll see what happens. Now, to our developments, many of you have heard of an earlier report, and this was a very interesting one. As you all know, Wade Barrett, better known as Stu Bennett, well, his real name is Stu Bennett, but he goes by Wade Barrett. Apparently, it was foretold by PW insiders saying that he is going to be taking off from WWE programming or something like that off the road. However, Wade Barrett decided to say that's a load of crap coming from whoever reported earlier that was the case. No, he said that he is requesting some time off. So basically, it's more like saying, get your fact check. And I have to say, I agree. If that's the case, then that's how it is. This was reported by Tony Khan. He said that Bryan Danielson, starting this coming Wednesday, he will be making his full-time appearance as a commentator. This is something I know that Dave Meltzer mentioned, that he could be a valuable asset as a commentator. And I think that is something I believe Tony Khan has considered. I don't know how Bryan Danielson will do, but I have to say it's going to be interesting. So we'll see what happens from there. And then finally, this is a very interesting one. Many of you may not know this guy if you're not big fans of the Japanese wrestling scene. We have Yuki Iino. Now, those who've never seen him, Yuki Iino is part of the DDT promotion from Japan. The same promotion where Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi learned. Well, it was later reported that Yuki Iino has a double contract. Not only as a pro wrestler, but he is part of an American football team that establishes in Japan called the Nojima Sayamahara. Yeah, so this is a football team, not a soccer team, but an American football team. They do have football in Japan, in case anybody asks. So yeah, so he's now working for two organizations, one as a wrestler, one as a football player. So it's interesting to hear something like that, but hopefully things work out for him, and hopefully he doesn't get too much stress. So I think that's pretty much it what we have for our reviews and our updates. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode coming up. We have a New Japan show coming up, and I believe it's the Yuji Nagata self-produced show, Blue Justice. I believe that's the one we're going to be reviewing. Hopefully I get to do that. But I also want to do, of course, to catch up with the Yoshi promotions, such as Sendai Girls, Marvelous, Oz Academy, and various others. So I'll do the best of my ability to try to catch up for all of you. So we'll see how that will progress. But as of right now, we'll leave things as it is. Until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.